Hello, it's Fredino here. I'm going to be doing a speed run for Resident Evil HD for the PlayStation 4, and the category is going to be Jill 80% on Real Survivor mode. Playing on Real Survivor mode, there are three things to worry about. One, because it's Real Survivor mode, the item chests are not linked together. Meaning you put an item or a weapon in one item chest, it will not appear in another. Secondly, there is no auto aim, meaning it can really help you out on some areas, and it can be a hindrance in others. Last but certainly not least, the game's default difficulty is hard mode. There is no easy or normal setting. So because of that, Jill's going to take more damage, a little bit more damage. Zombies, hunters, dogs, all that good stuff, they're going to do an extra bit of damage. And there is going to be a few spawn points that are different. But I'll talk about those as we come across them. First thing you're going to see me do is I'm going to leave this area twice, the dining area, and the second time Barry's going to ask if I have cold feet. What that does is you save about 3 or 4 seconds triggering that cutscene as opposed to discovering Kenneth's corpse. And because I need space for the grenade launcher and the dog collar, I'm not going to pick up the bronze emblem. I'm not going to pick up the bronze emblem yet. I'm not going to pick those items up until after we're done with the dog collar and the chemical and that nonsense. The first and most common trick you're going to see me doing is a trick called stair skating. What it allows you to do is to run up and down stairs twice as fast as you would by holding the run button. What you do is you just mash the run button as fast as you can, and if you mash fast and hard enough, you won't see Jill's legs move past the initial frame. So she'll just look like she's gliding up and down the stairs. Another common trick you'll see me do is whenever I'm holding the X button down, what the game is doing is repeating inputs, allowing me to open doors on the first possible frame. In some camera angles it won't be obvious, but in others you'll obviously see me be a character a length or two away while I'm opening a door. Also, I should have brought this up earlier, but the main reason why I'm not running around with my weapon equip, that's because you run faster without it, or if you're running around with just a knife. And as long as our health doesn't reach orange or danger, our run speed will not be affected, even if we're in yellow caution. In case you're wondering how am I making those turns so fast, what I'm doing is I'm actually using the Type B control scheme, the new and main selling point about the HD version of the remake. What it allows you to do, it allows you to make turns faster and make quick turns on a dime, so you don't have to do the whole animation with Jill slowly turning around, and that saves you quite a bit of time. And it allows you to make quick dodges a lot more consistently, especially against monsters like Lisa and hunters and certain zombies. That fat zombie that we just passed, normally he will trigger if you run in his general area or if you hug the left side of the small path that we come through while entering and exiting the tomb. When he does that, the absolute worst case scenario, next to him just obstructing the entire camera, making it near impossible to dodge the zombie that's going to be standing right in front of you, is he can appear off screen in that small path and bite you as soon as the camera angle change. Best case scenario is he just harmlessly hovers in his little area. We're heading back to the main hallway again to meet running into Barry. He gives us acid rounds. We need these acid rounds to kill not Plant 42, but Yawn 2. Even though we're picking up the grenade launcher, we're only going to have 12 shots. That's going to be enough to kill 2 of the bosses that we need to kill, Yawn 2 and Plant 42. Picking up the self-defense knife for contingency's sake against the dogs. I need to use it to get the collar. Best case scenario in that fight is the dogs will pounce on top of me, and I can use the self-defense item to knock the collar off. Ideally, I'll obviously want the dog with the collar to pounce me, not the other dog. Otherwise, it'd just be a waste of a self-defense item. Also, that hallway where the dogs normally burst through in the original Resident Evil, they don't burst through until your second pass through here. But we're never going to be coming through this side of the mansion again for the rest of the game, so we're not going to see those dogs, period. And when you're picking up the chemical, the dogs across the fence, they only tend to jump out at you when you pick up the red herb and try to leave. Otherwise, they just harmlessly bark at you, allowing you to safely pick up the chemical. We're gonna run past this first harmless zombie. He's too slow and reacts too slow to really do anything to us. That second zombie, since he was a proxy zombie that time when we was running around the corner, he decided to do a quick turn into the wall, allowing me to quickly run behind him. First item I'm going to pick up is a lighter, and then we're going to pick up the dog whistle. It just saves us some turning around to do in this room. You can just pick up the 2 items in one go, as opposed to running back and forth a little bit. These next 2 zombies are particularly annoying in this area because not only are they hard to deal with because of the camera angle, but they're also random movers. There's 2 types of zombies AI when you enter a room. They're random movers, meaning as soon as you enter a room, they will move in one of 3 or 4 random directions. And then there are proxy zombies. Zombies that will stay in their place until you move close to them, and then they decide to go after you. Also, sometimes a couple of the random mover zombies, they have different spawn points depending on how you enter and exit the room. And I will show off that later on. There's the dog collar. I'm gonna pick it up. And there we go. You save yourself about a second. You save yourself about a minute of pain and suffering trying to kill one of those dogs with just a handgun. Also, remember how I was telling you about the zombies having different spawn points? Well, on normal, that zombie that we just passed, he would actually be across the door, like right in front of the door. He wouldn't be in that little area. Only on hard mode does he appear right outside the room. Which is convenient, actually, because on hard mode, he's a lot easier to dodge. As opposed to normal, he's a proxy zombie. And sometimes his AI won't allow him to flinch. He'll just make a beeline straight for you. Now that the Crimson Head is awake, now we get to deal with Murder Hallway for real. Murder Hallway is really annoying because on top of the 2 zombies you have to deal, you have a Crimson Head constantly chasing you throughout this hallway. And you don't have a lot of, because of that, you don't have a lot of time to run past the zombies. You have to do it in one go. You can't stop and think about it. And because of the Crimson Head is awake, we have to deal with the now fat zombie being a mover. Normally he just stays in front of the mirror, but that time he will move towards us. And when he moves towards us, he can move in two directions. He can move away from the corner that we run around, or he can run towards the mirror. Best case scenario is he runs towards the mirror and he's a complete threat. Man, it's a complete non-factor. It's when he's walking towards the corner that we have to worry about him. Because if he stays in the middle, you can't dodge him. There's not enough time or space, and the Crimson Head is right behind you. So you can't just run back and forth triggering him. Otherwise, you're going to get hit by the Crimson Head. So if he's walking towards the corner, your best case scenario is to pray to God that he's hugging one side of the room, meaning one side of the wall, and you hug the other. Because for some reason, when you're running past him at that point, his hitbox sort of shrinks. We're going to be coming across that hallway again, but not for much later in the game. Actually, we won't be going through that hallway again until Mansion 2, actually. But by then, we may or may not have a self-defense item and a healing item. So even if we do get a little messed up in the hallway, we'll be able to heal ourselves fine. Got a little carried away myself there. I'm supposed to head to the first floor from the second floor. Now that we have to save Richard, as soon as you leave the room and exit the map, there is an invisible timer that you won't be able to see. You have about 7-8 minutes to save Richard, otherwise he dies from the poisoning. That gives us just enough time to use the chemical and grab the first death mask. Now that we're coming across our first chest, we're going to put away the knife and the sword key. We're not going to be needing either of those items for the rest of the game. Even though we're going to need a knife to cut the webbing from Black Tiger, we get another knife in that area. So the extra knife that we have now, kind of just wasting space. That zombie that bit me, even though I successfully dodged him the first time, I ran into him the second time because of the constantly switching camera angles. One thing to note about this game, particularly the first half of the mansion, a lot of the zombie and the zombie dodges that you have to perform, they're all in small areas with very cumbersome camera angles. And I can't believe it took me until actually a couple weeks ago to realize that. It's not until you're out of this area and you go into the outhouse, the mines, and you revisit the mansion that zombies appear in much larger areas and the camera angles aren't so troublesome to deal with. Or in the case of the outhouse, the zombies are just a non-factor because they're either knocked out or completely out of your way. Nice jump scare with the two zombies bursting through the window, but since we're not saving Chris, we won't need to come back to this room. Because I'm not going to be grabbing the ammo disc or the yellow jump for that matter. Now that we have the first death mask, we're on our way now to save Richard. Only for him to get eaten whole by the snake because he doesn't know how to run through doors, unlike Jill. Also, you may not seen a quick glance of it, but even though I took a bite, my health still shows that I'm fine. That is a lie. I am actually in yellow caution right now, even though the game doesn't tell me that. If I take another bite, I will go straight to orange caution, as if I just was exited out of yellow caution. And this next zombie we're going to have to dodge is a fine case example of what I was just telling you about earlier. Completely small area, barely enough room to dodge them. Small area, and its AI is not going to lunge at us, so... Since he didn't want to lunge at us, that dodge would have been impossible in that area. There's no way you're making that, not on such quick notice. It's okay that I got bit by that zombie because I have to use this first aid, being the first aid spray anyway, to make space for the first half of the musical notes. So I would have been using the first aid spray either way. Would have been either sooner or later. Now that we have the space, we're going to pick up the bronze emblem, and we're going to swap it out with the gold emblem. Again, you've seen it again. Even though I took a bite, it's showing that I'm on fine. Complete lie. As far as I'm concerned, I'm on yellow caution right now. When a zombie's back turned against us, he would do a quick turn grab, but the grab has such a small hitbox that you can just run past it with ease. That's why I was able to run past that zombie with no effort whatsoever. And in case you're wondering if I'm running the Japanese or the American version of this game, I'm actually running the American version of this game. I just have the text set to Japanese. That's one of the features that this version of the game gave you. You could change the languages of the text. And going with Japanese because less text to scroll through, and it's a lot faster to scroll through it all. And now we have the grenade launcher, aka the boss slayer. Here we come across Jan for the first time. All we're gonna do, we're not gonna fight him at all. We're just going to grab the mask and run out of the room. Do that by running between the snake and the pillar, grabbing the mask, running around the pillar, and that's it. That's Jan in a nutshell. He's very easy to dodge. That route that I've taken, since I started taking that route, I've never gotten bitten from him since. Only other time is when I deviated that route and I had to play it by ear. Gonna pick up this green herb because I need to be able to take a hit from Crimson Head. Because the first time he attacks, he has two random attacks. He has a swipe and he has a grab. And he could randomly do the swipe. I also needed it from that because, see, orange caution. And now I'm back to yellow. Now I have to pray to God that he does the grab first. There is a first aid spray on the first floor and the next item chest that we're going to be passing, but I'm not going to bother. It takes up too much time to get. Also, in case you're wondering if taking that bite was intentional, it obviously wasn't intentional, but since there was nothing I could have done, I decided to just take the bite from the back. That way I don't have to use the self-defense item. Even though I could have decided not to use the self-defense item by pushing the L1 or L2 buttons, I have it set to auto, so if Jill gets attacked from the front and she has a self-defense item on, she will automatically use that. I need to turn that off, actually, sooner or later. By the way, now that we're approaching going from the second to the first floor in this room, the zombie on the first floor, he activates if you're hugging the railing. But if you're hugging the wall, he won't move at all. He'll just wait until you run past him, and then he'll decide to try and attack you. But since you're too far away by that point, he's not a threat. Now that we're back here on our way to fight Elder Crimson, the two zombies that were taking up this area before, they're now gone. Gonna insert these four masks and fight the boss. Now, what I want to do on this boss fight, I'm going to hit him 2 to 3 times with the handgun. He's going to run at me, and at that point, I hope he grabs me and not do his little swipe. Because then I can use a self-defense item, and I'm going to use 1 round from the acid rounds, and that's going to put him down. It shouldn't take any more than 2 rounds. There's a self-defense item. And there we go. That was perfect. That's exactly how that needed to play out. Now the remaining 6 shots for the grenade launcher, the normal grenades, not the acid rounds, We're going to be using those on Plant 42. Now, you're probably wondering, how am I going to kill Plant 42 with only 6 grenade rounds? I'm going to kill him with using 6 grenade rounds, and he's going to die in about 2 rotations. If I do it fast enough. But I think the practical route is going to be 3. But it shouldn't take any more than 3. There's that annoying dog. First self-defense item, well, third self-defense item we're going to use. And second and last first aid spray that we're going to see throughout this entire game. Yes, I will be able to mix a green and red herb, which is what I'm probably going to have to do. But as far as first aid sprays goes, this is it. I hit it too early. Crows in this area are generally harmless. They're only a threat if you're going to pick up the Magnum and run towards that area. But we're not going to be picking up the Magnum. It just like the normal shotgun, it takes way too much time to get. Because you have to do a puzzle to get the first crest, and then you have to go out of your way to get the other 3 crests while looking for random switches on the crest. That takes up about 3-4 minutes just to get a weapon that we're not going to be using a lot. And besides, more times than not, we're not gonna have enough space for the Magnum anyway, because we're gonna need it for other key items. Gonna put away the handgun and the lighter. We're not gonna need either of those items for the rest of the game. Here's our first encounter with Lisa, and this is where the new control scheme shines. Because instead of having to walk forward and then quickly walking back, banging on her to attack immediately, which sometimes you will not do, so you could just run forward and then run backwards on a dime. And there you go, just like that. That dodge becomes a lot more easier with Type B controls as opposed to Type A. And now we won't see Lisa again for about 3/4 into the game, until we get into the mines. Kind of funny that they added this giant extra force to get the crank when all you had to do in the original was push a step ladder on in front of a shelf and the crank was right there. But that's fine, because even though this game is an HD version of the game that came out in 2002, this game still looks amazing to this day. We're gonna have dogs in the gazebo. These dogs, they don't spawn until you trigger the cutscene. So you could stand there and nothing will happen. Now that we're in the outhouse, most of the zombies will not be a factor in this area. Just because they're either on the ground, knocked out, or being hung. Only one zombie that we're going to see is going to be a potential threat, but we have a self-defense item, so he's not going to be a threat at all. You're not going to see me push the box over the hole, just because it takes way too much time to do that. Plus having to climb over and jump off the box 2-3 times coming through that area. So it's actually faster to just let Plant 42 grab you. This is the first door that you can't open just by holding the X button. You have to actually walk up to the door and press it like normal. But you can hold the X button and open it after you leave this room. There is a chance that on my next and final pass through this area, Plant 42 will put me in orange caution. That's what the first aid spray is for. Best case scenario, that won't happen. I'll stay in yellow caution, and my run speed won't be affected, and I still keep a healing item. The self-defense gun is a very, very powerful handgun. It's it's a little bit stronger. I mean, it's a little bit weaker than the Magnum. About as strong as a shotgun. But you don't have to be close range for it to be just as powerful. So that's the trade-off. I mean, so that's a good thing. The trade-off is it's one-time use. Well, that one-time use is it's gonna be on Plant 42. We're not gonna use it on any other zombie or any other boss. Yep, and the best case scenario happened. I didn't get put in yellow and orange caution, so I still get to hold on to the first aid spray. Again, approaching zombies from a back turn. Their grab hitbox is virtually non-existent. Unless you're running literally right into their metal sprite. And now the most exciting and probably least unrealistic part of this game. Moving 3 boxes to make a makeshift bridge made out of wooden boxes that don't flow in random different directions. Actually, I would say the least realistic part about this game is Jill surviving a blow to the head from Lisa when she has metal handcuffs. But you know, video game show. The sharks in this area, I believe they don't spawn unless you move forward. Just like the dogs and the gazebo. As long as you stay on the outer ring and not the inner ring, you'll be fine. The sharks they have a much lower chance of attacking you. It's actually quite rare if one of the sharks actually bites you. Now, before we do anything in this room, first thing I'm going to do is check the board to see what pressure gauge I have to hit. It's either going to be 1, 2, or 3, and it's 1 this time. Now I'm going to attempt to drain the water, the shark going to hit the glass, and now we get to drain it.
Emergency. Unknown source of pressure detected. Locking all doors to achieve maximum safety.
The only RNG part about this area is this pressure gauge switch I have to hit. Every other part is just optimizing movement. Doing this as fast as possible.
Reaching 50% of pressure threshold. Activate emergency drainage system immediately.
Now, this is probably the closest thing you'll see to a quote-unquote skip in this game. Normally, what you have to do in this area is push the electrical flip switch in the water and fry the shark. But we're actually going to do a shark skip. We're going to jump into the water and mash X, grab the item, and just run on out of here. The shark skip looks way more impressive than what it really is. All you're doing is just holding up left. You hold up left until you straighten yourself out, running at a 90-degree angle from where you started. And after that, you just mash X to pick up the key item. You do that, the shark will never bite you. I remember the first time I saw that trick back in Also Games Done Quick 2012. I actually thought that was really impressive and really cool. Then I started speedrunning this game and did it myself. I was like, wait a minute, this is really, really easy. Like, it still looks pretty cool if you don't know the secret behind it. Once you do, you understand that it's not that impressive. But it does save you quite a bit of time, though. It saves you about at least between 20 and 30 seconds. Between having to push the breaker into the water, flip the switch, and all that good stuff. And because I'm in Orange Caution, I have no way of absolutely healing myself. Because I accidentally took the bite from the back instead of the front. Great. And because there isn't a green herb in sight, despite there being a red herb. Never mind, I have a first aid spray. If I didn't have a first aid spray, though, this run would have been over. I actually had to stop and catch myself from getting too upset, but then I realized, wait a minute. I have a first aid spray I didn't use. Let's use that. There is a little bit of RNG that plays into this area, and to this particular cutscene right here, the bees dying. They can die either really fast or really slow. And that was actually one of the slower deaths. Usually the faster deaths don't take any more than 4 seconds. Now that I did use that first aid spray, though, now this just means I have a very small margin for error against Plan 42. Essentially, I can't miss a single shot with the grenade launcher, and I have to land a self-defense item shot from the first floor. The naked book puzzle that's too hot for Twitch and for YouTube, but like. Here we go. That was a perfect Plan 42 boss fight, by the way. No damage. Killed him and on its second cycle. I'm gonna pick up this red herb here, just because when I come across green herb, I'll have another full healing item. Now that I have 5 more shots with the grenade launcher, I'm going to unload the rest of the rounds on Yawn. He only takes 4 shots to kill with the acid rounds, so I have 1 shot to spare. I'm going to grab this blue robe too. This is for the snakes on the small pathway that we're coming across back to the mansion. Because if I get poisoned, the run is over. I have no way of curing it, and I don't come across a healing item or a blue herb until a little ways into the mansion. We're gonna run this path in a peculiar way so that none of the snakes will bite us, outside of the first one. The first snake that bit us, the snake that's on its far left and its own little way, he has the least amount of chance of us getting poisoned. It's the other snake that if they bite us, they have a very high chance of poisoning us. That's why I grabbed the blue herb. Now that we're back into the mansion, now the majority of the mansion is infested with hunters. Outside of the second hallway that we're going into the mansion, the rest of the mansion is pretty straightforward from here. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy outside of Hell's hallway for the third and final time. It's the next hallway that's going to be a bit of a pain. This hallway, we just run straight into the door. Now this first hunter, I'm going to run in front of him and stop and see if he attacks. And he's just going to do his instant kill attack. Gonna pick up this green herb and combine all three herbs to make a super healing herb. That first hunter that we ran past, he has two types of patterns, depending on how he acts. The first is the one we just saw. He decided to hop back for a bit and go after us immediately with his instant kill attack. The second is he stays in place and makes a swipe right there. I mean, right where he stands. Either of those patterns allows us to stair escape past him very quickly. It's when he takes a step back and make a run with us that makes it a bit trouble, because he will get an attack on us on the stairs, and we have to stair escape as fast as possible. And if you don't have any healing items, the hunter on the second floor, if he attacks you and then go for his instant kill attack, he will kill you because you run too slow, you can't outrun him. And thankfully for me, I got the best possible pattern. Neither hunter decided to try and attack me. At least right away. The first hunter did, I mean, not the first, but the second hunter did get me a little bit. But I had enough health that I didn't have to worry about getting killed. Now we're back to zombies and small areas and camera angles that are very cumbersome to deal with. I'm just gonna run right behind them now. And this zombie, the exact same thing. Even though I make it look easy with these new controls, it's not. It's not easy at all. That zombie, because of the camera angle, I misjudged its distance between me and the zombie, so I dodged a little too late and I got bit from the back. I'm not gonna pick up the self-defense item here. I'm just gonna pick up the battery and leave. Since I still left the green herb and the Hell's Hallway, I could just pick that up in case I get bit by both zombies. But best case scenario, I get bit by one. There's the Crimson Head. If I run... What I intended to do was to hug the right side of the wall. And had he would have used his swipe, I would have just ran past him. But my hand slipped and I moved away from the wall. So I got hit from the swipe. But the swipe doesn't do a lot of damage. That's probably the least damaging thing on Real Survivor mode. Oh yeah, after this fight, I should probably explain how pump canceling works. Basically what it allows me to do, it allows me to more or less rapid fire the grenade launcher and shotgun. You do it by aiming, firing, releasing the aim, and pushing back or forward. If you do that, you cancel the recoil recovery from the gun, which allows you to I thought I missed my shot. Actually, I did. But anyways, it allows you to cancel the recoil from your shot and you can fire again. So, sort of gives you a rapid fire. Now I have absolutely no more ammunition, which is fine because I'm not going to kill anything else for the rest of this game. At least until I get to the laboratory. But by then we'll have Barry's Magnum. And now this is also the final time we have to deal with Hell's Hallway. And it just so happens to be the easiest. Just run around the corner and head straight for the door. The Crimson Head is too far... He's too far away and too slow to attack. And the Fat Zombie is too far away to be a threat. Now for here on, once we get the jewelry boxes, sort of just going to be long stretches of transportation with nothing in our way to really be a threat to us. So there's going to be a bit of dead air here. Now that we're done with the helmet key, I have enough space for the jewelry box. And I'm going to combine the jewelry box with the red jewel to get the stone object. Or metal object, whichever they call it, I forget. Either way, it becomes a stone and metal object when you fuse the two anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna do that puzzle right now. And there we go. We have the dispenser key. And I have extra space. I wanted to check and make sure that the zombie wasn't going to do a quick turn and go straight into me, so I decided to run in front of him. Switch the camera angle up to see how much distance I have, and I figured I was able to make it, so I just ran back behind him and just went straight for the door. Ideally, you want to make enough space from the zombie between the dresser and the zombie so that you can grab the jewelry box and run behind the zombie, just go straight for the door. If you're too scared, you can circle back around. Guess I can find something to talk about. I've been speedrunning this game since the second week of May. And I've been speedrunning this category since the beginning or middle of September, so a bit over a month by now. Like, I've always had some small interest in speedrunning, but the two big things that was holding me back was the fact that I couldn't stream and record, and the fact that I was so focused on fighting games at the time. But once fighting games stopped being my main focus and I had gained access to a PS4, being able to, at the worst case, record my runs, I figured now's a good time as any to start speedrunning. At least if I'm going to speedrun, I'm going to speedrun the game that I really, really like. I just didn't think that speedrunning the game so much would make me get tired of the game, especially as fast as it did. Like, even after I submit this run, I really don't feel like running this game again for a hot minute. On our second pathway through these snakes, we're just gonna run diagonally between the two paths like I just did. And none of the snakes will bite you, which is a good thing because, again, if you get poisoned, I don't have a blue herb, and there isn't one until we get past Black Tiger, so run's over at that point. But thankfully, now that I don't have anything to worry about poisoning me, even if I get poisoned by Black Tiger, there's a blue herb right outside his room, so we're just gonna heal it immediately. Now that we used the battery, we can head between the two different parts of the garden, and we're gonna stop the waterfall by filling up this lake right here, or pond, whatever you want to call it. This should also be the last time I have to deal with any sort of dogs either. Which is good because they are really, really aggressive and really, 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 really annoying to deal with, especially when you don't have a shotgun. When you have a shotgun, they're kind of not of a factor, but since we don't have that luxury, they're more annoying than anything else. And to think in the GameCube version, they were much more aggressive. so much that in this version they gave them extra things like an extra growl and an extra bark, meaning basically allowing you to run past them without much problem, as opposed to the GameCube version. Good luck with that. And now we're at the part of the game where all the hunters throughout the rest of the game decides to have very slow AI and take their sweet time trying to attack us. By the time they actually get an attack off, we're already out of the room. Which is great, because if these hunters were to attack on sight, this area would be much, much harder. You won't be needing those 3 items for the rest of the game. The boulder here will activate once we trigger the second camera angle. Now you can't you can't hug the wall and then make the turn early. There is an invisible section on that wall that will hold you back and you will get ran over by the pillar. You just have to run down the middle and just make the turn as you go. This is the last fight. Since we put away the knife at the very beginning of the game, we're going to be grabbing that knife that's behind Black Tiger. There's a pretty good chance that his poison is going to hit his webbing. And it doesn't. So we have to make 6 swipes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess it did hit his webbing off screen. Normally you have 6 swipes to work with. But since the poison destroyed one part of the webbing, we only have to make 5. That was actually some real good RNG. Because he could have been a lot more aggressive, and I don't have the health to tank all the hits, so I could have potentially died. And when you get hit by Black Tiger, he knocks you down and it takes you forever to get back up. So the best case scenario is for him to use his poison, because even if you do get hit, it doesn't take up anywhere near as much time as you do getting hit physically. And there's a chance that he won't even poison you anyway. The solution to this puzzle is we have to push the statue back in its original position, and we have to use the turntable in the center of the room to return it back to its original, to have it facing the other side of the wall, the right side of the wall. So that means we're going to push it onto the turntable twice. Now I'm going to push it slightly off the turntable, so when I stop pushing, I don't get turned either. Because one thing that does take up time is you being stuck on the turntable. Because when you're on the turntable, you can't move. You can lock yourself out from completing this puzzle if you push the statue too far. And I think that's exactly what I just did. So I have to double back. I guess not. But yeah, if you push the statue too far forward, or too close to the wall, I should say, Jill can't fit between the statue and the wall. So what she would have to do is leave the room and come back. And that wastes about a minute right there, since it takes about a minute to solve the puzzle anyway. Here, our best case scenario is to just run behind him. Or run around him in this case. When you enter that room, he has 3 random things you can do. He can do an attack just like how he did there. He can bull rush straight past you. And you can just run straight for the door. And he can get ready for his poison spit. It doesn't really matter what he does. You could just play it safe and run behind him, and he won't really hit you unless you're slow. If you're slow on the draw, he will hit you if he does his physical attack first. I've had that happen a couple times. And hunters continue to be slow. We're going to grab the golden part of the shaft and combine the 2 pieces together. You can see the solution to the puzzle on the shaft, but it doesn't change anyway. It's going to be 4, 2, 3, 1. Number and keypad puzzles do not change in this game. They're always the same. So the keypad puzzle and the laboratory, it's always going to be 8462. In this area, you can spawn Lisa's AI to make her appear in different positions, depending on which camera angle you trigger first. So from the door at the center, if I go to the left, she will appear right in front of the rack with the flamethrower, where you have to set the flamethrower to escape the room. And if you go to the right, she will appear right in front of the switch. It's a very safe strat actually, in case you don't want to bother with Lisa at all, but it is a little bit faster to just don't bother and dodge her. It's not hard dodging her in this room because you have more than enough space to do so, as opposed to the last time you meet her. And from this area, if we go to the switch, she will appear a little ways past it, and if we go down the stairs, she will block your path, but she will stay still. She won't attack unless you get close to her. One thing I should have noted about Lisa is her swing attacks. Her swing attacks, when she doesn't do a giant swing, they have very big and active hitboxes. Like, they're active for days. Like, even as she's swinging her arm back to ready position, it's still active there. You have to wait until her arms are more or less completely still before you can run past her. Otherwise, you'll just take a hit and she does a lot of damage. gonna pick up the broken flamethrower. One thing I don't really get about the broken flamethrower is that you find another box and you smash that box to pieces thanks to the compactor, but you find a nice shiny broken flamethrower that doesn't really look all that broken either. It looks a little bent, but that's about it. And surprisingly enough, it still fits on the rack, that which I'm pretty sure would be, you know, destroyed by now due to wear and tear and all that other good stuff. I have to wait until her arms stop moving again before I can move forward. There we go. Otherwise, I probably would have got hit. And now we just have long stretches of transportation with nothing to really... There is no zombie that we're going to pass that's going to be a threat to us at all. We're just going to be blowing our way past through them. This zombie that we're going to be passing, so because the game considers that slope that we're setting on a different axis, sometimes he will try to spit on us. He won't try to bite us. But it's not that entire slope that's considered a z-axis, it's just a certain part of it. I should have explained that earlier. If you and a zombie are on different elevation levels, zombies won't bite you. They'll just spit. So most commonly, if you catch a zombie on stairs, he would never even attempt to bite you. And this hunter right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the last hunter we'll be dealing with for the rest of the game. After this, we're back to zombies. There's Lisa waiting for us for the third and final time in this game. We're not going to let Barry live, so we're going to be able to pick up his Magnum. And we're not going to pick up the Magnum until after Lisa's dead. I don't think it saves us any time picking up the Magnum before anyway. And you're just playing it risky because Jill can get knocked off from the ledge if she gets hit from that position. I'm basically just gonna go clockwise in this room, going from the bottom left and working our way up. I'm gonna wait until Lisa's stepping on the over the Magnum before I move. And for this stone, I'm just going to wait for her to attack, but she's not going to attack. When she decided to jump over the coffin, I was kind of worried. But then she did her big giant swing attack and a miss, and then I proceeded to not be worried. Because she does have a little two-hit combo where she does her giant swing attack, and then she attacks you with tentacles from her back. That does put you in orange caution. That's what I was worried about. But since the giant swing whiffed, and it has so much recovery, I was just able to run past her with no problem. And now I have Barry's Magnum, the strongest weapon we're going to get in this run. Barry's Magnum is strong enough to one-shot bosses, and we're going to be using that to kill the Tyrant at the end of the run. But before we can do that, we have to kill a few other monsters for the nitroglycerin walk, and we absolutely have to kill them. Even in a normal playthrough, you have to kill them anyway so they don't try to attack you. Because if you get attacked with the nitroglycerin, the game's over. You explode. And since we don't have the luxury of saving, the last thing I want to do is die because I got hit with nitroglycerin. So we're going to use Barry's Magnum to kill all the necessary enemies. And the rest of the enemies we're just going to run past. By the way, the second zombie that we dodged, on normal, he doesn't appear in that spot. He stays in front of the door to get the power key. He doesn't move at all either, unless you're right next to him. That goes back to what I was saying at the very beginning of the run, how zombies have different spawn points. Granted, it's not a lot, it's only 2 or 3, but they do change different enough that you have to plan a different route. See, that's his original spawn point on normal and the easy mode, not in front, not in the middle hallway. Now that we have the power key, we're going to grab the canister and fill it up with nitroglycerin. Yes, even though you get a headshot on that enemy, he still has a little bit of active friend zone where he's alive and he gets one last attack on you. Thankfully, I wasn't in caution. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble. I was very, very shocked when that happened, because normally when you shoot him, he goes flying across the room and he dies instantly. But sometimes you get a headshot, he does sneak off one last hit before he dies. The last gatekeeper of the game. If we get past the nitroglycerin walk, everything else is smooth sailing from here. Now what I have to do here is I have to travel from here to the spot where I got the canister without running too much. You can walk 3 steps and run 3 steps without the nitroglycerin exploding. But if you take 1 extra step, it's boom and it's game over. And that's it. All we do now is turn on the elevator and the power and fight the tyrant, and we're leaving. No need to save Chris, no need to save Barry. We're just getting out of here as fast as possible. As long as you keep running through this area, none of the monsters here are going to attack you. Even though they're pretty fast, they still take quite a bit of time before they start attacking. And the attacks themselves are actually pretty slow. Like, the only time they're a major threat is when they're on all fours crawling across the ground. But if they're running with their hind legs, as long as you're not in danger or close to it, you can outrun them. And now it's time for a meet and greet with the final boss of the game, the Tyrant. This is the second door that you have to walk up to and manually hit X. You can't just hold the X button. Just thought I'd bring that up again. And that's the final boss of the game. Told you Barry's Magnum is strong enough to one-shot bosses. I'm sure if it was possible for me to fight Black Tiger with this Magnum, I'm sure I would be able to take him down in one hit too. But now all that's situated, now we're just gonna get on out of here. All the zombies that were normally running through this area, they've all despawned and switched to those little bug type monsters that come out of vents and stuff. So we're just gonna run through. Only zombies that are up here are on the second floor, and we're just gonna run past through them like normal. The laboratory is probably the shortest and easiest area in the game, next to the mines. But it's also potentially the most stressful since you're getting so close to the end, but you still have to worry about walking around with nitroglycerin and not exploding. That's not something I needed right there. That was not what I needed to happen. At least attack me from the front so I could use a self-defense item, but he can't even do that. I should have brought this up the first time I was in Orange Caution, but when you're running around in Orange Caution, your run speed gets reduced. It gets reduced to the point where you're running slower than what you would be normally holding a gun. So when you're ever in Orange Caution or in danger, you want to get out of that status as soon as possible. Luckily, there is a green herb right there. I wouldn't have minded taking the hit from the zombie, at least from the front, because I have a self-defense item that I could have used. But since it was from the back, I had no way of using it. But without that little setback, here we are at the end of the game. Now all we gotta do is just see the time. Since we already killed the Tyrant, we're not gonna fight him again. Or quote-unquote, killed. Here we are. That's it.